Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by bringing an ukulele with you wherever you go, secretly hoping someone will ask you to play something for them. I'm your host, Kamaka Diaz, and fun fact, they actually named an ukulele after me. Just don't fact check that. Before we introduce our talented guests, this is just a reminder to head to Hawaiiverse on Instagram to enter to win a $100 gift card to our Hawaiiverse website, where you can buy hundreds of local products from local Hawaii businesses and help us in our mission of supporting local. And while you're at it, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It would mean the world to me. Okay, guest time. Our guest today is an award-winning Japanese-American ukulele virtuoso from the island of Oahu. He has been playing the ukulele since he was 4 years old and has proven time and time again that there isn't any style of music that he can't play, and he is not limited by just 4 strings. His music combines elements of jazz, blues, funk, rock, bluegrass, classical, folk, and flamenco. This musician has gone from local phenom to YouTube sensation, from playing in tiny clubs to headlining the world's most prestigious concert venues like the Hollywood Bowl, Lincoln Center, and the Sydney Opera House. This husband and father of 2 has also performed on the biggest TV shows and in front of people like the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, and has released a string of award-winning, chart-topping albums. Just recently, he was nominated by President Joe Biden to serve as a member for the National Council of the Arts. He has been called the Jimi Hendrix of the ukulele. You know him, your family and friends know him, my dog's fleas even know him. He is the ukulele legend from Hawaii. His name is Jake Shimabukuro. Aloha, Jake. Welcome to the podcast. How you
Thanks,
doing?
Kamaka. Thank you very much.
Honestly, when I do these podcast intros, that's probably the most the most I work on before the podcast. I research people, get their bios. Yours was the hardest. And I'll tell you why, because you've done so much. I felt like I was doing a research paper trying to do this. I had to cut stuff down. I'm like, if I keep reading everything he's done, we're going to be here for the first 30 minutes of the show.
No. Huh? I don't know. Okay, but cool. You have to be quiet. We're recording now. Thank you. Sorry,
No worries.
I have my 2 kids here with me today. But Kamaka, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I just really admire your story, and it's been such an inspiration, and, I admire your work ethic and your drive, your motivation. And so it really is a pleasure and such an honor, to be here. I've got to see a few of your other episodes that you've done with some friends of mine, and, you do just such an amazing job, just kind of like that, the way you talk story, the way, you're just so engaging. You have this incredible energy about you. I think that's just so infectious. And yeah, I love what you do and how you promote Hawaii, and how you you support so many local businesses and artists, and so very, very much appreciated. Happy to be here and looking forward to just talking story with you and getting to know you better too.
I'm supposed to be bragging about you. You're not supposed to be talking about me.
No, because I saw you on the news. I saw your story. Yeah, so when we first started talking, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but it was a mutual friend of ours, right? Kapona Wong.
Shout out to him.
Who kind of put us.
Great ukulele player.
Oh, he's amazing, man. And that guy. Oh my goodness, man! He's like blowing up all over the internet, and I think he's touring right now. He's touring right now. Nice. Yeah, he's. I think he told me he was in. I think he's in Minnesota right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, he's out there performing. He's doing something for, I think, the Kellogg's corporation. So I was like, dude, that's awesome, man. So
following in your footsteps.
Oh no, man. He's like making his own, man. He's doing so great. So I'm so grateful that he introduced us. And and when he first introduced us, he was just so casual about it. He was like, oh yeah, my friend Kamaka, does this podcast. I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to be on. And then when I started talking with you, and I realized like, oh, you were the guy I saw on the news.
I was the crazy student loan guy with long hair.
Yeah, you had long hair back then, right? No, but it's really great, and I think you're just so honored to be here. So thank you.
Mahalo. So we have a lot to get into, and I wanted to share this quick fun fact. This one's actually true, not about the Kamaka being named after me. My great, I don't know how many great-grandfather, Augusto Diaz, he actually brought the first ukulele
no way.
to
Yeah.
Hawaii. Yeah, and I don't play ukulele.
Wow.
But
So
my
that's
dad
your
would always tell
lineage.
us,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
he would tell us that story. Do you know, I mean, do you mind sharing the history of the ukulele?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, that's your family. You should, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just, from Google and just from hearing it as I grew up. So I don't know too much besides when I looked it up.
Well, so what I was taught with, you know, when the Portuguese immigrants, right, came over to Hawaii, they brought two instruments with them, the rajau and the machete. And those two instruments, so the rajau, if I remember correctly, is actually a 5-stringed instrument, but it has something called a re-entrant tuning, which is, you know, when you think of most stringed instruments, right, you have your highest pitch string closest to the floor, and as you get closer to, you know, toward your chin, it gets lower and lower and lower. So the one that's closest to your chin is the lowest string. But re-entrant tuning is when there's when it doesn't kind of follow that order. So like with the ukulele, that's why we have the 2 high strings on the outside and the 2 lower strings in the middle. So the rajau had that re-entrant tuning, but the machete was smaller and only had 4 strings, whereas the rajau had 5 strings. So what I was told is that the ukulele, the modern day ukulele as we know it today, is a hybrid of the 2 instruments. So it took the tuning of the rajau minus the 1 low bass string, and they kept the high string as the 4th string, and then the size and the 4 string, I guess, you know, the machete, right? And it kind of blended the 2 together, and that's what the ukulele. So that's what the ukulele is today. And so I think if I'm not mistaken, the people who, like historians, will say that the ukulele was born in Hawaii because it was, you know, it was like the child of these 2 Portuguese instruments.
Yeah, after these 3 guys, they came to work on the sugar plantation. They brought the ukulele. It was Augusto Diaz, Jose do Espírito Santo, and I think another guy. They arrived from Ravenscrag. That's what they said.
Ravenscrag. Yeah,
and so they brought it, and I guess like even our monarchs, they used to play it. Like one of the theories of how the ukulele got its name was, one, because they saw these guys playing it and they saw their fingers going all over the strings like a flea, because uku means flea in Hawaiian, and then lele means to jump, so it's like the jumping flea. That's what ukulele is. So some people thought it was like, because their fingers were going all over the place, there's like a flea jumping around on the fingerboard. And then another theory, I don't know if you know this, it says the Merriam-Webster claims that the name comes from the fact that Edward Purvis played the instrument. He was King Kalakaua's assistant chamberlain. So because he was a small man and he had a vibrant personality, his nickname was ukulele, or jumping flea. So then the instrument took his name. That's a theory.
I heard, those. So I thought the other one was, that second story you heard. I thought it was one of the the Portuguese immigrants who came over once they got to Hawaii. He was so excited that he jumped off the boat with the with the machete or the rajau, whatever he was playing, and just was like jumping around and just was so happy. And I don't know, but that's another one that I read. But I also read another one where I believe it was was it Queen Liliuokalani who there was another story that I read that that ukulele could also mean like gift from afar. So that was another theory that I had heard. You know, ukulele, like jumping flea, is kind of a very direct translation. But I haven't asked any. Well, you might know, like, how would ukulele translate as a gift from afar?
Well, so the only definition of uku I know is flea. There's also uku, which is to pay.
Okay.
So I don't know if maybe, so lele is, to fly, to jump. It could, I could see how the lele could be like from afar.
Well, because she was so poetic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, in her songwriting and with her words and her lyrics.
And it's all up to interpretation.
Yeah, so maybe it could have been a very poetic way of saying that as well, right?
Or some sort of idiom.
Yeah.
The ukulele is like a gift from afar. Maybe we can start it. Maybe we can start. Here's your ukulele, which is like.
But I don't. Yeah, and there's so many stories, So I always whenever I'm traveling and someone asks me, I share all of the stories that I know, because I don't know for sure which is the correct one.
Yeah, I guess the only way to know is keep talking to people and keep gathering all these stories, and then.
And we weren't alive around that time, so we weren't around.
Yeah.
So.
And what's also interesting, because I was doing some research on ukuleles, because I was just curious. That's kind of the fun part about my job. When I have certain guests, I get to research about their career, what they're passionate about. And then I didn't know that George Harrison and Paul McCartney were big fans of the ukulele, and they helped popularize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the UK,
And
well, it was really George Harrison, and then when George Harrison passed away, as a tribute to George, Paul would start playing the ukulele for George. So I think till this day, when he tours, he'll always play one of George's songs on the ukulele, because George loved the instrument. He lived here part-time, right? And on Maui. I think they still have a property there. And he's even been to the Roy Sukumu Ukulele Festival. And I think Roy shares this story of how someone from his office contacted Ukulele Festival Hawaii a couple days after they had their event. And he ordered a whole bunch of festival shirts. He wanted a bunch of the festival shirts. So I mean, he has a huge collection of ukuleles, kamakas. I mean, Martins, and but he just loved the instrument. He always he thought it was such an instrument that brought people together. And I think what he loved about it too was how much fun it was to play, especially with other people. So he was quoted saying that he always brings 2 ukuleles with him because it's more fun to play with someone else.
That.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was also wondering how it got big in Japan, because people love
it was Otosan.
Yeah, all the
Otosan was the
during
one.
the World War II it first reached Japan, right?
Yeah, so Otosan was the one who really popularized the instrument there. Otosan and Eddie Kamai, right? So I think Uncle Eddie was actually, Otosan actually learned from Uncle Eddie, right? And back then, Uncle Eddie Kamai was doing non-traditional music, right? So he was playing jazz standards, he was playing things like Malagueña and Granada on the ukulele. He was doing classical pieces. So he was kind of doing everything, and then at a certain point, and that's when he and Otosan or Herb Ota Senior got really close, and and Otosan started to learn everything from Eddie Kamai, and then that's when Otosan kind of went on his own, to kind of create his own legacy, but then at that point, I think when Otosan kind of went off and started doing, his thing, right? I think that's when Uncle Eddie, I think the story that I heard was when his father became very sick or very ill, his dad told him, you're Hawaiian. You need to play Hawaiian music and continue, the tradition. So that's when he decided to just dedicate, his life and his artistry to Hawaiian music. But prior to that, I mean, I've heard, of course, some of his recordings, but according to Otosan, there was so much more that he was capable of that never, that I guess never got recorded. I mean, you listen to some of his old stuff and you're just like, how in the world is he, doing that, right? So, and even Otosan too. I mean, Otosan was my biggest inspiration for playing the ukulele, because I think, he was one of the first guys who, toured in Europe, right? Played with orchestras, symphony orchestras. He was on all the big television shows, back then, and he had an incredible career in Japan. I mean, I remember when I first started touring Japan, this was back in the late 90s, and everything was Otosan. I mean, so for me being there was just wow, to just see the impact that he has had, on the people there. It's just really, really incredible. So yeah, so for me, Ota-san and Eddie and Uncle Eddie Kamai. So the lineage for me is Eddie Kamai, then Ota-san, because Eddie Kamai taught Ota-san. Ota-san taught Roy Sukuma, and then Roy Sukuma was our teacher, Jordan, right? You went there too, right? So yeah, so that was kind of my lineage.
Wow,
yeah.
that's so cool.
And recently, Ota-san's son, Herb Ota Jr., who was also one of my teachers. He never likes me saying that, but so he and I, he's someone that I've always respected, and recently, we've been able to collaborate and do a lot of projects together and performances together. And to me, that's such an honor, because his dad is the reason that I play today.
Wow, that's so cool. And there's probably a lot of people who look up to you when they're playing ukulele. So
I don't know.
Ota-san is to you, Eddie Kamai is to you, you are to them, which is really cool.
No, well,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. But I wish that there's so many recordings of Ota-san that are now out of print and people can't get. But back in the day, Ota-san was playing stuff like Flight of the Bumblebee. Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. It's unbelievable. If you heard, if all that music could be released again, people could really understand and appreciate his artistry and how ahead of his time he was. Even George Harrison was a huge fan of Ota-san. Had a whole bunch of Ota-san's early recordings. So yeah, he was. He definitely was a tremendous influence, all over the world, and he had a I think his song for Anna, where he collaborated with André Pop, who was one of the biggest orchestrators, in France. He heard Ota-san play and he said, "I want you to come to France. I'm going to write a piece and we're going to record it together." And that was Song for Anna, which became, till this day, I think is the biggest selling ukulele instrumental of all time. I don't know, like 8, 9, 10 million copies sold, some ridiculous number like that. And that was back in the, I don't know, the 60s or the 70s. Like, that's crazy, right?
Double, triple these days.
Yeah. So it's really, really amazing. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, it's so fun learning all this history about the ukulele and that. But how we all start
and just remind, I'm regurgitating right knowledge that I've received from my teachers and my mentors.
Awesome. So if anything is wrong, blame Jake. Blame his teachers. Are you ready for a night under the stars? On Saturday, August 27, we're celebrating the return of the 5th annual Makapu'u Twilight Concert at Sea Life Park. Get your tickets now so you can enjoy 5 hours of local music featuring Kimie, 10 Feet, Hapa, Kupawa, and today's guest, Jake Shimabukuro, with his group, Pure Heart. VIP admission gives you access to the park and its conservation-based exhibits from 12 p.m. You will also get a chance to meet the artists with early entry to the concert grounds. Guests may purchase local kind grinds like terry chicken plates, chili and rice, or poke bowls. Those 21 years and older can enjoy an assortment of wine, hard seltzer, and craft beer. To purchase tickets, visit SeaLifeParkHawaii.com or call them at 808-259-2500. Hope to see you there. All right, so I got to know, before we get more into everything, we got to go a little bit back. I got to know where you from, where you grad, and what was it like growing up?
Oh, yeah, so I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was Kapiolani Medical Center, to be specific. I went to Alawai Elementary School, to Washington Intermediate, now Washington Middle, and then Kaimuki High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Bulldogs.
and then I went to Bulldogs, and then I went to KCC for a few years, and then I did one summer session at the University of Hawaii. And that's where I got to meet, people like Dr. Byron Yasui and Dr. Harvey, who got me into, Dr. Harvey kind of got me into like the whole music therapy thing, and that was so inspiring. And then of course Dr. Yasui, I've had a long standing relationship with him. He's been such a great teacher, educator, mentor, and we got to work together on a project that one of my favorite projects ever in my career was a project where I worked with him and the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra, and he wrote a 3-part ukulele concerto for us to perform, and that was for me one of the highlights, because I've always wanted to do something like that, with a full orchestra.
Yeah. So for the listeners who don't know, because I obviously know what this word is, concerto, what does that mean?
Yeah, so a concerto is like when you have a soloist, like a soloist that is performing along with an orchestra, so with orchestral accompaniment.
Okay.
So like you'll have like piano concertos or violin concertos and ukulele concertos.
It's a cool word.
So, but it really was the first of its kind, because it was written in classical form, in true contemporary classical form. And it was one of the most exhilarating and the most difficult, biggest challenges, of my life musically. But I was very fortunate, because Dr. Yasui, being able to, because a lot of times in the classical world, right, you don't always get a chance to work with the composer of the piece that you're playing, right? Because a lot of times the composers have passed away, because a lot of these pieces, have been written a long time ago. But there are a lot of contemporary composers today, right? But majority of the things that are played are the things that were composed so long ago. Oh. So to actually be able to sit with the composer of the piece and kind of really get that direct insight on what they were thinking, or they can actually give you feedback on how they want you to interpret certain sections, or kind of to kind of guide you. And I think a lot of times as a performer, when you're covering someone else's songs, right, or someone else's music, the most important thing is you want to be respectful, and you want to kind of at least try to convey what they were conveying, but at the same time, adding your own, I guess, self, into it somehow, right? So that's the perfect marriage there. But so yeah, that was such an incredible project.
Yeah. So by the time you were doing that, you're in college, you're already a pro, very skilled.
No.
Because you've been playing since you were 4, right?
That doesn't mean anything.
I guess you're right. I've been playing soccer since I was 4. I'm not a pro.
I've been doing a lot of things since I was 4 that I'm still terrible at. So
good point. You bring up a very good point, Jake.
But I think like the way I got started was when I was in high school. I was very fortunate. I met going to Kaimuki High School. There were so many musicians that inspired me. People like when I was a student there. I mean, there were people like my good buddy Jonathan Rivera. He was a huge influence for me. John Fury, he was another one. Trying to think of other musicians I play. Patti, right? And a lot of musicians I looked up to. I mean, people like the Cal Creator Boys, Kapena, they all went to Kaimuki High School, right?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so it was even Israel Kamakawiwole, I believe so. Yeah. So, so there was, so for me, being in that environment, was so inspiring, and I learned so much from all the, all the players, because, they played in such a different way, because I kind of grew up more playing Roy Sukuma's style and in the style of Otasan, but when I went to Kaimuki High School, there was like a different side of the ukulele that I started to discover, kind of like, I guess kind of like playing, like basketball and like street ball, you know, like so it's kind of like that kind of thing.
So
you know,
were
and
more basketball like polished.
So I kind of learned, you know, with you kind of learned reading the notes, you know, because Roy Sakuma teaches you to kind of know your notes and your chords and things like that. But yeah, when I started playing with these other players, you know, they would do all these things that I'd never really seen or heard before, and I'd be like, whoa, what is that? What is that? They're like, oh, I don't know, but it sounds good, you know. So I started kind of like realizing, like, oh, okay, you know, oh, that's cool, and started to pick up some tips. And when you jam with other musicians, and you always constantly learn things, right? And I remember someone telling me, like when I was in high school, I remember hearing a quote about tennis, and they said that, you know, in order to become a better tennis player, you always have to play with people better than you. And I took that quote, it really struck me, and I applied it to music, you know, and I realized, like, gosh, you know, the more you can collaborate and play with other people, then you know, the more you learn, because everybody has such a different approach, and you know, they have all their own little tricks and things like that. And so I'd always ask questions, you know, and then at some point I realized, well, it doesn't just have to be ukulele players, but I can learn, you know, from anyone, right? And that's when I started learning from guitar players and singers, piano players. I started watching other string players like harpists. And I would kind of see how they attack the strings and how they pluck, and I would try to apply that to the ukulele, or like even the Japanese koto, you know, trying to like emulate how they get that real percussive sound and things like that, you know, and that's more like just kind of more the physical aspects of playing, right? Because you're using your fingers, and you know, it's the way you touch and attack and release the strings, and you know, the way that you use vibrato and how you move the instrument, you know, to create the sound. But then later on, you know, that's when I kind of, like, for me, I guess the second tier is kind of more the mental, the more cognitive side, you know, music, and you start developing your own philosophies, your own, like, you know, why you make certain decisions. Like, why did I choose to voice that chord, you know, in this way over this way? Or why did I choose to, you know, to reharmonize that part, or to play this note where I played it, or how I played it, or what string, right? That all becomes like your own personal preferences and tastes, right? So
create your own style.
Yeah, exactly. And then the third element that I like to talk about too is the emotional side, right? And that's kind of the intangible, right? And that's, to me, like the most important, because it's the part where you can't really control. It just kind of happens.
It takes over, right?
And yeah, and when I was in high school, I mean, I was really into watching like the Bulls, you know, the Chicago Bulls, and Michael Jordan was like,
because you're the Michael Jordan.
No. But Michael, like my son now, you know, he loves Steph Curry, right? But I was saying, oh, you know, when I was your age, man, I was like, I loved Michael Jordan, and I remember watching him play, because when he would get in the zone, I remember thinking, like, when you're real passionate about what you're doing, and you're like, and you feel like you're in the zone, you kind of just block everything out, and then you're able to just focus and do what you do, right? But I remember there was that one game, I don't know if you remember, but Michael Jordan, you know, he scored 35 points in like the first half. It was ridiculous. I mean, everything was just going in. And I remember, like, even like he was running back, you know, and looked at the camera and just kind of like put his hands up, like he was like, I'm just having a great game today, right? So, but I remember watching that game, and I realized, you know what? When you're in the zone, you don't block everything out. You actually take everything in. Because when Michael Jordan was in the zone, you know, he became so hyper aware of, he knew where every single one of his teammates were on the court. You know, he knew exactly what was on the shot clock. I mean, he became so hyper aware of everything. And that's when all that magic started to happen. So I remember after that game, I started thinking like that, wow, when I play, I have to not try to block things out, but I have to incorporate everything, right? Bring everything in. And there was a very famous classical guitar player, I remember, that once said, you know, the instrument is not just the guitar that he's, you know, because he was a classical guitar player. His name was Pepe Romero. and he said, don't think that just the guitar is the instrument. When you're playing, the entire concert hall is your instrument, right? And you are playing the concert hall. You are playing your environment. So everything that is in your environment, becomes your instrument. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. That is so deep, right? So that those two things really struck me, and that's why now whenever I try to perform, rather than pushing everything out and just focusing inwards, I try to and it's really hard to do it. I can't always do it, but there are moments where I can feel like, yes, everything, we are all breathing together, and everyone, everything is just kind of we're experiencing the same thing, and that's where the rush happens.
Yeah, it's like your ukulele, the people, everything is just in sync. Yeah. It's just in that zone. That's so cool. And I see that with when you perform, because I just recently went to one of your shows. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And it's so cool how somebody can just play the small little 4-string instrument, but make it so exciting, make it so fun and entertaining, because it's not that you're not only playing the ukulele, you're feeding towards a crowd, you're moving, people are singing, like how you said, like the whole room, stadium is your
becomes
instrument.
Part of
that's how the Blue Note was at one point. So like I'm listening to you say this, and in my mind, I'm just thinking, wow, that makes sense. Because that's really how it was. And I think that's a special skill that you have, that is why you've been so successful, why people are drawn to your style of ukulele playing. Because you're a natural. I don't know if you are a natural. Were you always a natural?
I'm kind of
curious. Were you more shy back in the day? Because you seem like a natural. You seem like this is what you were born to do.
Yeah. So when I first started performing, so my first like band that I played with was a band called Pure Heart, and I was in high school. Well, I just graduated high school, and I had met. Well, actually, it was my senior year in high school. I met John Yamasato, who was our guitar player and singer, and he was so talented. And we were in student council together. So after, he went to Kaiser, I was at Kaimuki, but we would have, we had this. They probably still have it, but district council. So we were both on the Honolulu District Student Council together. So after all the meetings that we'd have, we'd always like go hang out, and we would just jam music and play. And then, and I was just like, oh man, this is so much fun. And then right after I graduated high school, I got a job at House of Music. And that was in the Ala Moana Shopping Center. So I worked there, and that's where I met Lopaka Colon. And Lopaka Colon was just this, he's just a phenomenal percussionist. And, his father was a legendary Augie Colon, who played in the Martin Denny band, and he did all those albums like Quiet Village, did all the bird calls and animal sounds, and Lopaka was like, he had just he was recording with Robert Kikala when Robert Kikala came out with his first record, and he was actively performing, and recording. So, for us, he was like, oh my goodness, he's already doing it. And I remember talking with him one day. I said, hey, me and my buddy John, we kind of get together and we jam music. Like, would you ever want to come and jam with us? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. So we invited him to one of our rehearsals, and he came down, and oh man, he just was kind of listening to us, and then he just started playing. And John and I looked at each other. We're like, he's amazing. Yeah, so and then we formed our first group. It was called Pure Heart. And this was back in 1996. We recorded our first record. 97 was when we won our first Hoku Awards.
Yeah, and, first of many.
Oh my goodness!
Especially for you.
And it was like and it was so for me, like back then, I was very shy, so I didn't when John and I first started playing together, I wouldn't say a word. I mean, John did all the talking. In fact, sometimes I wouldn't even have a microphone in front of me. I would be sitting in a chair with my head down, and John would be singing and playing. And then when it would come down to and then he would like look at me, and then I would just do an ukulele solo with my head down, and I would just play, and then it'd go back to him. And so I was so shy. I had absolutely no stage presence. But at some point it just became so much fun, especially like when we would play with each other on stage, because it was like we would feed off of each other's energy. And then it became less of, okay, we're trying to perform in front of these people. It became more of like, oh man, let's just have fun, and the excitement from the audience like really kind of gave us this rush, I think, and that's what I fell in love with. And I knew like, oh man, I love performing, and I feel so fortunate that till this day I can still go and have opportunities to do that.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide to go solo and pursue your own musical career? And then I know you had that viral video, which I'm sure helped catapult your career.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So with the band Pure Heart, we disbanded in 1999, and then Lopaka, Cologne, and we started another band, and it was called Cologne, and it was a tribute to Lopaka's dad, Augie Cologne, and we picked up two other musicians, Lopaka's cousin, who was Guy Cruz, and we had another bass player, Andrew McLellan. I haven't seen Andrew in years, so we had a 4-piece band, and we called ourselves Cologne, and we released one record, and that was again such a great experience, especially for me, because Guy Cruz, he just had this. He came from this more acoustic rock, soul kind of vibe, so he really pushed me to be more experimental, because some of the things that he would sing, he felt needed. He wanted to have different textures and timbres, and kind of just a different energy to it. And that's when I started experimenting a lot more with different pedals, and how can I try to find a sound that he's envisioning in his head right when he's singing. So he really pushed me to try different things, and so that was a really great experience for me. And then in 2001 in mid 2000 I think we disbanded, and then that's when I thought, oh man, what am I going to do, right? Because I didn't have any confidence to be a solo artist. I was always a sideman, right? And
you're just part of the band.
Yeah, I was always just a sideman. It was like I would kind of step back, and then when it was time for me to do something, I would, kind of do my thing, but then I would just step back, right, afterwards. And so back in 2001, I remember, back in late 2000, I remember there was one restaurant that allowed me to come in and just kind of play solo, and it was the Willows restaurant. And then later on, Chai's Island Bistro. Those were the two places that kind of gave me the opportunity to. They basically just told me, "Oh, Jake, yeah, just come in, do whatever you want." I was like, "Really?" Mm-hmm. So I would come in, and that's when I got to work up some solo arrangements for the ukulele. Because I was just by myself and I don't sing, so it kind of forced me to I need to come up with some songs now, because I need to be able to at least play and for an hour, right? And so I started to build a set of songs and arrangements that I felt comfortable playing, and that led to that 1 hour became 2 hours worth of music, and that 2 hours became 3 hours worth of music. And then in 2001, I remember having I got my manager at the time, Kazusa Flanagan. She took me out to Japan, and I got to perform for some record labels out there in Japan, and one of them was Sony Music. So in 2001, after that kind of showcase for them, they offered me a 7-album contract. So that started my career in Japan. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I think in 2004, 2005, actually it was 2005. I flew to New York for the first time to do a show at BB King's, and I'll never forget that because prior to the concert, there was a group there called Ukulele Disco, and they did like this local TV show. And they said, Jake, can we interview you, So I said, oh, sure. I'm in New York. I'm like, wow, I didn't know anybody knew who didn't think anybody knew who I was. So I was like, sure. So we went to Central Park. They asked me a few questions and they said, can you play a song? So we were right there. There was the Strawberry Fields sign. So I thought, oh, yeah, I'll do this. And at the time I was working on this solo arrangement of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. So I played that in Central Park, played it. It aired on TV. And then that was it. I went back home. So this was in late 2005, early 2006, and that's when YouTube just started out.
Yeah.
And so someone, till this day I don't know who, but someone took that clip from that TV show, put it on YouTube, and that's the clip that went viral.
And it was actually one of the first viral videos on YouTube.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Crazy. And then
you got chicken skin saying that,
and that's what kind of opened up all these doors, and it's the reason that I've had these opportunities, to travel, and it started first with opening up for other bands and just kind of being performing at some festivals,
late night shows.
Yeah, and it just kind of grew and grew, and so I was just very fortunate, just really in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
and coming back to the whole George Harrison thing. I like to tell people because, I think George Harrison, one of his, I think it was kind of like his personal mission to kind of turn more people on to the ukulele, because he loved the instrument so much. So he was kind of like an ambassador, right, of the instrument. So I like to tell people that I think even now that George Harrison, he has left us, but I said, through his music, I think he had a hand in that video going viral, because he's still up there using his music and his artistry, through the ukulele, and still inspiring so many people as his music has inspired me incredibly. So it just kind of, that's who we were talking about right earlier in the podcast. So the whole George Harrison connection there.
That's amazing. It's such a cool way to honor him and, bring everything full circle as well. And that's actually one of my favorite songs you've ever played. When I was, I think it was maybe 7th, 8th grade, I had one of those brick phones.
Oh,
and
yeah,
my friend would, I would give my friend like a memory card. I don't even know what it was. And because he's like, yeah, I'll put some music on top. And it could only hold maybe 10 songs. One of the songs was While My Guitar Gently Weeps by you.
Wow.
So
I'm honored.
I would always listen to that song. And I think this actually might have been, right around when YouTube was just started or whenever that went viral. And I didn't know what that song was, but I hear it. I'm like, oh, who is this? And that's when I first knew about you. But so that song kind of has a special place in my heart because it's one of the first few songs I had on my phone. On mobile cell phones back in the day when it was just like a brick, like a Nokia or something like that. Yeah, so I love that song. But one thing I want to know is why don't you ever sing? Or do you sing?
I can't sing. I'm a terrible singer. I like to sing. Yeah. I mean, you can even ask my kids. Yeah, I'm bad, yeah. Yeah, I don't think any. Can I sing?
Can you sing?
Yeah, I mean, not in...
You can, but is it good?
Is it good?
See, I just straight no. Okay,
no.
But you compensate in other ways. What is your go-to karaoke song though? Because everybody, if you can't sing, you sing karaoke,
right? In fact, that night at the Blue Note, I was there with Jaylin, right? Jaylin came up and sang a few songs, really amazing. And one of the songs that she sang was that Elton John song, "Your Song." Mm-hmm. And I told her, because when she said she wanted to do that song, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, Jaylin, that's my go-to karaoke song, She's like, no way, you got to sing it. I was like, no, you don't want to hear me sing it. But Yeah, but that's one that I remember I used to love singing. But my all-time favorite was Hello Mata, Hello Fada.
What song is that?
Oh, you don't know that one? Yeah, hello. It goes like, Hello Mata, Hello Fada.
Wait, that does sound
Here
familiar.
I am at Camp Granada.
Oh, that does sound familiar.
So, because he sings in a very low voice,
Yeah,
so I was
yeah.
thought, oh yeah, I could do this, especially like the "Take me home, oh Mata Fada, take me home, I hate Granada."
That's funny because it almost like you're almost like imitating, so it doesn't feel like you're singing, like you're actually trying.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
exactly.
that reminds me. So we grew up watching Kikaida. You know Kikaida, the show.
Yes,
And
of course.
my stepdad was a huge fan, so we'd watch Kikaida all the time. And I never sing, but when somebody tells me to do the theme song, like Dendu Hiba, no,
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
the low voice. It's like, oh yeah,
Jiro
Tenji
Chenji.
Kikaida. Yeah.
Hey, that's good, man. Yeah, wow. You sound like the original. You sound like the original
But I can't
singer.
sing either. But when you said you do that low voice, it reminded me of like, oh yeah, but I have no problem doing the Kikaida theme song. If that was on karaoke, I'd do that more.
That brings back memories.
Maybe one day we'll do a duet of the Kikaida theme song.
Yeah, okay.
Call me on stage during your ukulele performance. This has nothing to do with ukulele, people,
man.
but here's a Kikaida theme song.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that brought back memories, man.
Do you ever get tired of playing certain songs?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Never, yeah.
What is one song that you can, is it go to, you can always do it? You have no problem.
No, I mean,
doing it
I
over and over again.
always like, because for me, every song, you never play it the same way twice. Or it may appear like it's the same arrangement, but the feeling is always a little different, So, yeah, so for me, I never get tired of playing any songs. I mean, yeah, because people used to ask me like, oh, some of the songs that you play all the time, like, do you ever feel like, oh, I don't want, I got to play that again, honestly, I can honestly say I've never felt like that about any song. The only time like I kind of cringe is like if it's a song where someone like me, oh, can you play? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I didn't practice that one. Oh, okay. And then I kind of stress out because I'm like, okay, trying to remember, right? So I'm kind of stalling, trying to remember like the bridge or like certain parts and okay, where did I go? And then, and then you kind of play it. But yeah, but it's always, yeah, I mean, to me, every time you start a song, that's an opportunity, right? Because you're like getting into a vehicle, and it's like that's your opportunity to take it wherever you want. I mean, the song is really just it's this structure or this van, and you really can go anywhere you want with it. You can approach it like a ballad. You can approach it more like kind of an up-tempo thing, or more like a jazz standard, with a little swing to it or something, or like a blues, or but it's really like you kind of, it's like someone gives you a recipe and tells you, oh, here's my banana bread recipe, and you're like, oh, you look at that, and if you have some experience baking and stuff, you can kind of look at that recipe and be like, oh yeah, I can do something with this, right? And so for me, every time I have the opportunity to play a song, it's like, to me, that's like an opportunity to just explore, let go, and see where it goes. And there are times where I play stuff and I'm like, wow, I really like where that went, and you try to recreate it the next time. It's like, I didn't quite do it right. And there are some times where I'll play something, I'll be like, I could have done that better, of course. And but that just kind of motivates you, to do something that's going to make you feel better about what you did with that song the next time, because better or worse, I mean, it's trivial, right? It's like, so, I mean, and there are times where you get so in your own head. I mean, I've been in the studio many times where I would record something and record something and be like, oh, I can do it. I can do it better. And you start trying it again, and you do it again, and you keep thinking, oh, no, I can do it better. And then you listen to it and you think, okay, I think I got a good take. And you listen to that one and you're like, okay, yeah, that was good. And then you go back and you listen to the very first thing you did and you're like, oh, wow, that one had a very special feeling to it. So sometimes when you're not overthinking it, there's a magic that happens. And sometimes when you try to force it and you have like this like an agenda, or you kind of have an idea of what you want the final product to be, and you kind of force it into that box. Then it's like, yeah, okay, you feel good about it because you have a goal and you're meeting that goal, but it doesn't mean that process is more impactful than something that you had done before, where you felt like you didn't have as much control over.
It's so interesting how sometimes when you're not trying or you're just having fun, you're not chasing perfection, these really beautiful things happen. And like a lot of like, songs like come from freestyles or just somebody just messing around. They're like, "Ooh, that sounds interesting. Let's make something out of that." And do you ever think back like to your high school time when you're like, okay, I got to step back to when I was just jamming with the bradas. We were just messing around. It wasn't so, by the books. And do you ever try to like step back into that place? And
I mean, that's the best, man. It's like, some of my favorite memories, playing music was like back in those days when we would, when it was just, we were just kind of like the whole Kani Kapila aspect of it, right? Everyone just coming together and just like throwing out songs or just starting something, or, they start in one key and then they start playing and they sing a song and then they keep the key going. Someone's like, okay, keep going, keep going. Yeah. And then they start singing something else, right? And everyone just kind of follows like, oh man, those moments, man, that's the real, that's the stuff, man.
I love those too. And I can't play anything. So if anything, I just get the egg.
Oh yeah. Hey, the egg, man. Cool. Yeah. My son plays yeah, cool. You play the egg shaker, right?
Yeah. That's the most important part of the Kani Kapila session.
But one thing, just to get back at what you said earlier about this, sometimes when you try to like force it or you try to overthink it, one of my former ukulele teachers, Tracy Torada, I remember he introduced this book to me. It was called The Inner Game of Tennis. I don't know if you've read it, but it talks about the two selves. And in tennis, there are times where you have yourself one and yourself two, and it's basically talking about your mind, your brain, and then what your body wants to do naturally, right? Those are the two opposing forces. And so sometimes when you're hitting, you're playing and everything's like great, but then your mind's like, oh yeah, we're doing good, okay, yeah, and then the mind kind of starts taking over, like, oh yeah, just do it, like it starts trying to wants to coach because it wants to be the one in charge and feel like, oh yeah, I'm in control of this, right? And that's when you start hitting it all over the place, right? So a lot of that, and the reason he introduced me to that book was because it's really just a sports psychology book, right? But you can apply that to music, like when you're performing, right? When you're just letting it, when you're not thinking about it and it's just happening naturally, it's like everything's just flowing, but then your mind starts like, oh yeah, okay, what am I doing? Oh yeah, okay, let's start making, and you start overthinking it, and that's when you feel like, oh yeah, I'm taking control, but by taking control, you almost kind of lose the possibilities, the spontaneity, and the possibility of something synergistic or something greater than what you're capable of doing. You're kind of restricting that possibility, and that's when to me that's when you kind of you're really doing a disservice, right? To yourself and to your art and to the experience of everyone there.
Yeah. Right? All about organic, all about letting things happen naturally. And I love those moments where it's just like, somebody, for example, like somebody's bringing an ukulele and everybody starts singing, somebody else comes and joins, somebody else comes and joins. And it's that very natural synergistic moment. It's some of the best memories ever. Yeah. But speaking of playing ukulele, we're about halfway through the podcast and we're going to get into Instagram questions. I know you brought your ukulele, so for everybody still listening right now, the loyal listeners, we got a special treat for you because Jake is about to jam a song for us here live on the podcast.
Oh,
exclusively for you listeners. So if you're on just listening on audio, head to YouTube, head to Spotify, watch the visual feed, and you'll see how entertaining someone can be on an ukulele. Yeah. What are you going to play for us?
I don't know. I guess Well, we were talking about the George Harrison song a lot.
I love that. I mean, to see that played, I mean, I saw it live at the Blue Note, but to see have this personal concert right over here for Jordan and I and your sons, I mean, that sounds awesome to me.
Sure. Let me tune up here. Okay.
So, exclusively on the Hawaiiverse podcast, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, originally composed
By George Harrison.
Written by George Harrison of the one and only Beatles.
All right.
Wow. Chase, Cole, do you guys ever get tired of hearing that? No. Awesome. Great answer.
Well, one of them's looking and jamming, the other one just like.
Wow. Mahalo so much for playing
Oh,
that is incredible to see that. Oh, it's like reliving my childhood. that was awesome. Mahalo,
Thank
Jake.
you, Kamaka. Thank you.
So, wow, let's just take a deep breath after that, everybody. Even though I didn't do anything, he did everything. I don't know if you noticed, I was with the White Cocoa Shaker a little bit. Okay, so going right from that into Instagram questions. JC Flip wants to know, how fast can he strum the uke, and is there a world record that he can break?
I don't know. I don't know if there's probably a whole bunch of world records. No. Huh. I know there's a world record for Flight of the Bumblebee. Okay. There was like a different versions of Flight of the Bumblebee and who could play it at the fastest, tempo. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I definitely know that I don't hold any records in playing fast because there are people out there who can play incredibly, insanely fast. And but yeah, my strumming style kind of came from drumming. So when I was in high school, I played in a marching band, right? So when you play in a marching band, I played snare, so it's like that idea of sticking, right? So when you're playing right, left, right, left, right, left, for me that was like down, up, down, up, down, up. So when I would play, when I would do stuff, it was really like trying to mimic a snare, like.
I can see that, yeah. It's like drumline. It's like Nick Cannon,
right? So that kind of became the inspiration, for a lot of my strumming style and things like that. So so a lot of it came from just even though you're strumming, like these downstrokes like this, right? I realized that the quicker I can strum the downstrokes, these are all downstrokes, right? My hand always has to come up to get ready for the next downstroke, right? So that's when you incorporate the upstrum. Instead of just coming up for the downstroke, you can hit the strings on your way up, right? So right? So what I would do is I would strum down with my index finger, because then the nail of my index finger makes contact with the strings, right? But then if I come up with my index finger, it's the flesh part of my index, right? That's going to hit the strings. So it has a very different sound.
Yeah.
Right? But if I come up with my thumb, now I'm making contact with the nail again against the string. So now it becomes more consistent. You hear that? Yeah. So now when I play, you hear like instead of just down up, it almost, you're hearing like a drummer, like left right, left right, left right, or right left right, left right. So now you got this. Right. And then the other thing that you can do is you can also use your thumb to get in between. So now you can go down, and instead of just one up, you can throw your thumb up there, but then you can also bring your index up. So now instead of just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, I got down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up.
That's a lot of coordination, Jake.
So now you got like a triple pattern in there. So you got this, right? And that's just down, up. So, but when you add the triple, you get this extra beat in there, right? Now it becomes a, right? So if I slow it down and speed it up. And that's where that speed comes from. So it's not so much like my hand is moving faster, but I'm just making contact with the strings, more often.
That's so cool. And it's really cool how you can use the ukulele to make different sounds of other instruments. Something that you'd never think about, especially growing up here in Hawaii, where it's just very like down, up, down, up. Same three melodies you use for every single Hawaiian local song, and like one of the songs you always, when you play ukulele, you always learn surf,
Oh yeah.
And it's just like the 3 chords or whatever.
Yeah, but even like, those kinds of rhythms, like for me, I always thought, we take it for granted because we live here, but people who don't kind of grow up, with that music, it's really hard for them to, we take for granted that we can do this, right? Like, right? We can do a, right? You say you love me, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
So that strum pattern, that feel is like, if you don't grow up with it, you can't do it. If like sometimes when I jam with people outside of Hawaii that aren't familiar with that style of music, and I start doing that, and they try to play, they're like, oh man, that's such a cool groove, because it's like, it's not, you don't hear that too often in other styles of music, so yeah, so I mean, we take it for granted. We think, oh, it's so easy, because we grow up with it. But it really is. It's I mean, there's something magical about the music that comes out of Hawaii, and even if it's just like 2-3 chords, man. Sometimes to me, like, man, those are the best.
Yeah, those are
it's like
those bangers. I mean,
so,
a lot of the old like guava jelly, drop baby
oh,
drop. Like,
man, yeah. Oh, drop baby drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the jam right there.
Yeah. Love it. Well, so cousin_Willie wants to know what is it about the ukulele that brings you joy?
Oh man, I think a lot of it is, I don't know. For me, I think it always like, just for me personally in my own home, it was kind of like that family time, because I remember every time I would learn a new song at Roy Sakuma's studio, I would come home and I'd tell my parents, okay, don't look at the sheet. I'm gonna play this song. You have to guess what it is, and that was kind of like, I loved that, I loved that. And my mom was really my first ukulele teacher. She was the one who sat me down, taught me a few chords. First song I learned, everybody knows this one, right? USED suckers every day, 50 cents an hour, $4 a day. USED suckers every day, right? So that was the first thing I learned from my mom, that song, that plantation song. And I think whenever my mom would sit down with me and teach me, a new chord or something, that was like, it was just like very special moments, and then as when I got older, I think I was in the 5th grade, and my parents separated, and they went through a divorce. And so for my brother and I think because my mom taught us, and my both parents, kind of had to work. My mom had to work all the time, in the bar and stuff, and to pay rent and stuff. So for us playing the ukulele, even whether it was together or, if I was just playing by myself, for me it was like, made me feel like that time that I remember spending with my mom, so it was very, I think it was something that became very therapeutic for me, and really helped me, through a lot of things. So that I think that's where the joy kind of comes from, because I never felt alone, when I had the ukulele, and for me and my brother too, a lot of times my brother will tell this story. I have a younger brother named Bruce, and he would get so tired because back then I didn't have like a looper or anything like that. They probably had those, but I wasn't aware or something. But so I would always tell my brother, I would make him be my looper. So I would write these chords. Okay, Bruce, you got to strum these chords here, and I want to try to practice soloing over them, or I want to practice, like finding a melody. So you'd like be playing it for like like 15, 20 minutes. He'd be like, I'm getting tired already. His hand would be cramping up. Like, no, come on. I gotta practice this. So I remember he always tells that story of how he'd get so frustrated because I would just make him play these chords over and over. And but he also said, that's what made him, really, I guess, maybe get more into music, because he's a great ukulele player and teaches and performs and stuff, and we get to do stuff every once in a while, and but yeah, so I think for me it's it's that family, that bonding, and just all my memories of people coming together because of music, because of the ukulele. It helped me to come out of my shell and overcome my shyness. I mean, I'm still shy in certain in certain situations, but it's definitely, the ukulele has definitely helped me to connect with people easier, and I love talking about music. I love talking about the ukulele. So whenever I don't know what to talk about, I just start talking about the ukulele.
I mean, that makes sense, that people talk about what they're passionate about. Whether that's sports, surfing, music, crocheting, bowling, whatever.
Whatever
traveling.
The passion is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, and that's what I love about having a passion, right? Because when you're passionate about something that you're doing, you love doing it. You just want to do it all the time. And so for me, having this passion for music, but also I'm grateful that I can dedicate, all my time, to learning more about it, to exploring, and when I meet other people that are passionate about what they do, I can learn so much from them, because I'm like, how do you organize your ideas, or even if it's not music related, even if it's someone who's passionate about something completely, like someone who does, like, maybe who's passionate about like computer programming, or someone who's passionate about like an athlete, right, who's very passionate about a sport or whatever. You can learn so much from them, because it's a mindset, right? That's all it is, it's a mindset. So like getting into their head and understanding, like, okay, well, because there are times where we all feel discouraged, we all feel defeated. How do you overcome that? How do you get up and and just kind of plow through it? Because there's so many times where I'll be playing, I just feel like I'm at a plateau, and I get so frustrated, like, I like what's, I'm trying to, like, I want to always feel like I'm
leveling up,
progressing, right? And when you feel like you're not progressing, it's very frustrating, because you're like, okay, what is that next? What is that next puzzle that I need, to start connecting more pieces? And that's when you kind of, sometimes it's a YouTube video that you see of someone talking about something, you're like, oh, and it just inspires this idea. Or sometimes it's an experience you had. Sometimes it's like traveling or meeting someone new, or even seeing a movie or whatever it is, or going to the beach, just getting out there, and and then this new idea or this new feeling comes into something that's new and fresh, and you're like, wow, I need to explore this. And then you do, and then that one thing leads to 100 other things, and then that keeps you busy for the next couple of years. So it's just, I love it that there's so much to learn and discover, and it's exciting. And if you can get past the point where you're okay with knowing that you're not going to learn everything, but you can just enjoy the process and just enjoy the journey, it's so fulfilling.
Awesome. Love that. Mahalo for sharing that. Next question comes from Submarine Daughter 571. They want to know, is there someone you would like to collaborate with and have not yet? I know you've collaborated with so many people.
No, well, like alive, or like dead or alive, or they have to be living today.
Let's
I guess.
do one of those. Like, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Man, wow, that's a tough one. Well, I guess I would have to say Steph Curry, because I would have to bring my son with me because I think he would. Yeah,
That would be actually a really cool collab. You know, I don't know if you remember the Christmas commercials they had a long time ago for the NBA. They would shoot the baskets and they would make the jingle bell sound or one of the a Christmas sound.
I didn't see that
I'll show you after.
Yeah.
It was with a bunch of the superstars. They would shoot it, and the every time the basket would go in, it would make a certain sound. So when they were all shooting, it was this like. Dun, 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 dun,
Oh, that's
whatever.
cool.
I forget what the song was, but it was like that.
Yeah.
So you could probably do something with like every time you dribble, it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. I don't.
Steph Curry, if you're watching this, collab with our guy right here. That would be really cool. Yeah. All right. Lanai wants to know, what did he cook on Cooking Hawaiian Style?
Oh, is that Lanai? Yeah.
Lanai.
Oh yeah. So I saw your podcast. You know, so I know it's Lanai. So I'm gonna start saying Lanai from now on. Yeah. But yeah. I had so much fun. You know, doing his cooking show because, like I said, you know, I mean, we go way back, right? You know, from high school, when I was in high school at Brown Bags. And so I always rag on, well, we always rag on each other, you know, when we talk about that memory of, cause we're only allowed, I think we were only allowed to play for 3 minutes, and I was like going over my 3-minute mark, and then he had to like kind of like, okay, you know, and I kept going, and then they basically had to like lower all the faders, you know, so no one could hear me after a while. But you know, it was just he's you know, he's an amazing guy. You know, he's just involved in so many things. He always giving back to the community. You know, he's such a generous person, and so I just, you know, he's always someone that I've always loved, you know, hanging out with, and just kind of every time we get together, I feel like we just kind of pick up where we left off. But I think that day on his cooking show, because we were, you know, I think it was so much fun for me because I'm not a chef. I'm not a cook, you know. I just, but he was like, yeah, just come on, you know. So I was like, okay, I know how to cook a few things, you know. So I think I made a steak. I made some kind of truffle dressing thing for a salad, and I think I did like something with eggs. But anyways, but the coolest thing was, you know, we just got to talk about music, and we just got to reminisce and just kind of just really catch up. And I think that was really really nice. You know, I didn't feel like we were even on a cooking show. I just felt like we were, you know, just hanging out. Yeah, just hanging out in his backyard. But yeah, he's so I do remember what I cooked. It was a steak. I made a truffle dressing for the salad, and it was something with eggs. I can't remember what it was. Maybe an egg sandwich or something.
Oh, okay.
Because that's something my dad used to always make for us. Like, he would make eggs sunny side up, and then, you know, you just put it between 2 pieces of bread with ketchup, and then you bite into it, and the yolk just kind of like
sounds really good.
goes down your chin onto your shirt, and then it dries up later, and you have all this like yellow, you know.
Like, is it hanabata or egg yolk? Okay, awesome. Makai Mauka wants to know, how do you pay it forward?
Oh man, well, you know, I just I don't know. I don't know. That's something I think about a lot. You know, just like what I can do. You know, whatever I can do to serve. You know, not just my family, but my community, the city I live in, the state I live in, you know, the country I live in, or just serving this planet, you know, as a whole. When I was in student council, one of the things that really kept me there were those leadership camps. You know, I love those leadership camps. They were so inspiring, and one of the concepts that really tugged at me was the concept of servant leadership. You know, always leading by example. You know, the idea of just finding that joy and fulfillment in serving other people, right? And I remember like when I was like a teenager, that was something I always strive for, and sometimes like, and I can see how like sometimes that can come across as being very, like a people pleaser, but it really wasn't about pleasing people, but I just always, I like feeling useful, or I like feeling that I can be of service or I can be helpful in any kind of situation, whatever it needs, like if I'm at a potluck and and things need to be cleaned up after, like I love being able to stay and help fold up the chairs and put
That's
the rubbish
local
away.
style right
Like
there.
yeah, there's a feeling like a like you just it's so gratifying, right? And so I love being able to do that. And it's not for like, you're not trying to do it because you want anything, but it's just I like feeling like I'm a part of something bigger than just myself, and so being part of an organization or being part of a community and working toward a common goal, I think that's what I love, when everyone can be on the same page and like, you feel like, yeah, we're doing something positive, we're doing something that's impactful, and it's gonna, be make a great impact, right, in on our future or for our children or for the next generations, right, to come. So I love that, and every opportunity, because there's always opportunities, right? I mean, even if it's something as simple as you can tell someone is in a rush and they're in the wrong lane, you see that sometimes, you can pay it forward by just kind of slowing down and let the guy go, or let the girl go, or whoever's driving, let them cut in front of you, or give them the right of way, or you see somebody walking and you hold the door open for them, a little longer, or you got a whole cart full of stuff and somebody behind you only got 2 items, hey, yeah, why don't you go? You only get a couple stuff, right? Or you see someone in a military uniform standing behind you at a coffee shop, and and you just say, yeah, pay for their coffee. I mean, there's opportunities all the time, small or big, and you never know, like that one thing that you do, you never know how it's going to impact that person. You don't know what that person's going through that day. Even if someone's grouchy and rude to you or something, sometimes you don't know what that person just went through today. Maybe they had the worst day of their lives, but every other day they're like the most positive, uplifting, generous person. You just never know. You just caught them on a bad day or something, right? So I think there's always opportunities, and and you just gotta be mindful and keep your eyes open for those opportunities, because every time you find one of those opportunities and you do something that's like, oh, you feel good, and then it makes you want to do more good things. I think
kindness is cool. Paying it forward is cool. I think the smallest act of kindness is better than the biggest, grandest thought. So just even the smallest thing. We always think like paying it forward, it has to be this big grand thing. I have to buy somebody a car, or I gotta do these huge things, but just like small things like that, where it's just like holding a door open, buying somebody's coffee, letting somebody go in front of you. Those are ways that you can pay it forward and just show kindness to others, because like you said, it makes us feel good. Making other people happy is such a good feeling. So I love that you said that, and I hope people really take that to heart. Okay, last question from the Instagram question. This comes from Lucky I Live Hawaii. That's Neil. He's the one who gave me the tickets to your show.
Oh,
so shout out to Neil. He's a
right
big
on,
fan.
Neil. Hey, mahalo, man.
He lined up at 2:00. Your show didn't start till like 6.
My gosh.
I think he was the first one in line. I got there. I was
Thank
a little
you,
late. I got
Neil.
there at like 6:02. So you were right about playing the first song. And after I talked to him, he's like, "Yeah, I was here at 2:00." I'm like,
Oh man,
that's a dedicated fan."
Thank you so much, Neil. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So he wants to know, what would you like your legacy in the ukulele world to be?
Oh, wow. I was just talking to somebody about this recently, but I don't know. For me, I don't know if it's with ukulele, but I just I don't know. I just want to be. Oh, I don't know. This is a hard one. Neil, you ask hard questions, man. These are
The legacy questions
these
are
are
always
like,
tough.
yeah, these are like the kind you gotta go, you know, you gotta go like on a hike, you know, for like
Spiritual
30
journey.
days and not like eat anything. And, you know, that's the kind of questions. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that at this time, you know, because I mean, there's, you know, I think it's always evolving and always changing. And then, you know, and it's just, I don't know, I guess,
Well, I think if I could just, chime in on this, I feel like your legacy in the ukulele world will be, like the best players in the NBA. You know, you had Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. Even before that, you had like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all these people. You have Kobe, you have LeBron. I think you're in the same level as them in your own, industry, your own career.
oh, thanks.
So I mean, cause like you mentioned, you had Oto-san, you had Eddie Kamai,
Kamai.
you had even like Israel Kamakawiwo'ole, like musicians like that who left a huge lasting impact on the community, the Hawaiian community, and around the world.
Yeah.
When you think of ukulele, you think of Jake Shimabukuro.
Oh,
It's like, I say when you think of Jake Shimabukuro, you think of ukulele, but no, when you think of ukulele, you think of Jake Shimabukuro.
no,
yeah.
no.
So I think what you have done in your 20 something year career, I don't know, even longer. Also, this you haven't even aged a day. The only thing that changed is your hair. You have so many different hairstyles growing up, but you look exactly the same. But yeah, I think at, when it's all said and done, we're all gonna pass on, but what we leave here, your legacy, which is the ukulele. When people play the ukulele, they're gonna be like, oh look, I'm like Jake Shimabukuro, just like how when people shoot a three, they're like Steph Curry, or I shoot a paper inside the trash can, I'm like Kobe. It's like when people play ukulele, they're like Jake.
Very kind of you say, but no, thank you. But
at least that's what I envision your legacy being from an outside perspective.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kamaka.
Okay, so mahalo everyone for the Instagram questions. Make sure you leave some for the next episode, and maybe your question will make it on the podcast. Okay, something I want to talk about real quick before we go into the end of the episode is I like to talk about how culture plays a role in people's life. And I know you're Japanese. You were raised in Hawaii, so you had the Hawaiian culture. You had Japanese culture, Japanese culture is like basically our biggest like subculture. Like here in Hawaii, we're a melting pot. The minority is the majority. But there's a lot of like misconceptions about culture, like Hawaiian culture. Like you're from Hawaii, you're Hawaiian. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure
see that
you've
a
had a
lot.
lot of times where it's just like the Hawaiian Jake Shim or the Hawaiian ukulele player or whatever.
Yeah.
So do you ever get mistaken for Hawaiian, or do you ever feel like, does that ever feel weird because you're not native Hawaiian?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. That's something. Yeah, I struggle with all the time. Like when I travel and people always like to say Hawaiian musician, right? But I every chance I get, I always try to in a way that doesn't sound in a very nice way. I try to explain to them it's I'm a musician from Hawaii, from Hawaii, and because I always want to be respectful, of course, right? To the native culture, the native people here, and that's always something that I think when I travel outside, being a musician from Hawaii, when you do interviews and you do podcasts or whatever, right? You always want to make sure that you represent, what's the best way to say it?
If you can't say it, just play it on your ukulele.
Yeah. Yeah. You just like, I always want the things that I say, like with my native Hawaiian friends, I always want to make sure that, what would they think if I said this, right? I always want, so I always want to have that perspective, and you know. But it's hard sometimes, right? You know, like even when people ask you about even things like what is aloha to you, right? When they ask you, like, you know, even though, like, to me, I feel like I know, you know, what it's like. I feel like you know, I feel like I don't know who, you know.
Like,
do
you
I have
can't
the
give
do I
the-
have the
yeah.
you know, do I have the green light to say what I think, or you know, it's just, yeah, it's something I always struggle with, but it's only because of the respect, you know, that I have, and it's like but you know, I tell you, man, I say it all the time that I'm so grateful, you know, that I was born and raised here, because it's such a beautiful place. The culture is so inspiring, and you know, and I'm so thankful that I get to raise my children here.
I
you
couldn't
know,
imagine when I
and-
have kids raising my kids anywhere
Yeah.
else but here.
Yeah.
Just from the childhood, the culture that we have here. It's
Yeah,
just
we're-
mixed with so many different things.
we're so lucky, and I think that I think that the culture that we grew up here has so much to offer the world, you know, to be an example, you know, just the way of thinking, you know, like so community minded, so like how we like, especially how, like, the native Hawaiians, you know, how they respected the land and the ocean, and everything was sustainable, you know, like that way of thinking to me is just amazing. I mean, I remember, I just recently heard from a friend of mine, you know, friend of Coral Reef Alliance, my friend Manny was just telling me that, yeah, even the ancient Hawaiians, you know, back then, they even understood that the coral polyp, you know, like, you can't even see that, right? Like the polyps of the coral, you know, that was the essence of life, the beginning of life. I mean, they regarded that as kupuna. And to me, that's amazing. You know, that is amazing that they observed that, because today, right, with all the coral bleaching, and I mean, this is a global crisis, right, with all the coral bleaching happening all over the planet. But, you know, but the Hawaiian people knew that already, you know, they knew that back then. And so I mean, just things like that. I think I don't know, I'm just so in awe, because in school, you know, you learn so much about a lot of the ancient civilizations, and they marvel at these different things, but man, what they did here was just, it's mind-blowing, you know, how they would navigate, you know, using the stars. Like, who would ever think of, you know,
Yeah, right?
how did that, I don't even understand how they figured that out.
Yeah, it's still mind-blowing till this day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing Nainoa Thompson talking about it a little bit, and I'm just like, how in the world do you do that? Even if you know how, like, you know what I mean? How can you do it? I mean, it's just, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, how they, you know, the fish ponds and all that stuff. I mean, it just
Hawaiians were smart people.
just blows me away, man.
It's cool too because your culture is Japanese, and there's a lot of crossover from Japanese culture and Hawaiian culture with respect for each other, respect for elders, even respect for the land. You know, I haven't been to Japan, but what I hear is there's no littering over there. Everyone is so good about that. You know, they don't, there's, if something's on the ground, somebody will pick it up, or there's almost never anything on the ground. So that, and it's cool just growing up with, you know, this Hawaiian culture, local culture, which is a mix of, you know, all the cultures from all the immigrants, which a lot of it is Japanese, you know, Chinese, Filipino, Portuguese, all of that. It's so cool to have that mix of everything.
Yeah, but the coolest thing to me about it is that, like, we never really thought of it, because it was just that was just, we didn't know any other way, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
exactly.
so it wasn't until I started traveling that I kind of realized how special, you know, our culture is.
Yeah, how we have a shared culture.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think
yeah.
about, like Lanai mentioned, the plate lunches, and just like the ukulele, for example, we think it's something so Hawaiian, right? Something so ingrained in Hawaiian history.
Yeah.
But many people don't even know it was brought over from Portugal.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So it's cool how these blend of cultures make what we have today. But it's so important to be educated and know what parts of our culture come from where. You know, like what is local culture? What is Hawaiian culture? How do they differentiate? Where does the ukulele come from? The plate lunch, you know, all these different foods and the things that we do. It's so interesting to think back on it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So inspiring.
So cool.
And I learned something new every day, man.
Definitely. Yeah, just talking to Kupuna, you know, elders, they have so much knowledge. Yeah. Okay, if you could have one skill other than playing ukulele, what would it be?
One skill.
Are you looking at your son right now?
I want to be more athletic because, like, yeah, these guys they beat me in everything now already.
Did you play sports growing up?
No,
okay.
The only thing I did, I did gymnastics when I was a kid, and then when I was in high school, I wrestled for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
But that was it, you know, and I just never really had the coordination to, do stuff. So, you know, I try to play soccer and basketball with them, and they just run circles around me now. So it's like
nice.
So I wish I had more
athleticism.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, if there was like a sports competition where you just have to move your fingers really fast and strum up and down, you'd kill everybody.
No, I don't think so.
If ukulele was an official sport, you'd win. Well, what is something besides your ukulele that you can't live without?
Oh yeah, I mean, you like something materialistic?
Yeah, something
like
materialistic. Yeah, because not your family
yeah.
or friends, whatever.
Gosh, maybe my. What do you guys think? Maybe my 3-prong.
No.
What?
Oh, are you a diver?
Singing.
Uh.
No, you're falling asleep. 'Cause you can't shop on Amazon.
His son says he's phone because he can't shop on Amazon.
Shop on Amazon. I know. I recently discovered online shopping.
Well, you got to check out Hawaiiverse. We have hundreds of local products.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Give you a
All right.
discount.
Oh, man.
That's so funny. And you mentioned 3-prong. Are you a big spearfisher?
Oh, I love spearfishing. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I love diving. Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's awesome. Where? How often do you go?
I did it a lot when I was younger because my grandparents, from Molokai, so I used to spend all my summers there, go diving with my grandpa. My grandpa was a really good diver and fisherman and boatsman and all that. So so I was very fortunate, you know, to kind of have him, you know, to kind of take me around. We used to go camp on the backside of the island, you know, Wailau and all that. Yeah. So but I grew up doing that, and then when my grandfather passed away, I kind of stopped fishing and diving for a long time because, you know, he was the one who got me into it. But then then when I met my wife, you know, she's from Big Island, so we started going back. You know, I started like kind of getting back into it, and then when we had our kids, you know, just kind of I want them to have, you know, that same experience that I had, you know, growing up fishing and diving. So
awesome. What about surfing?
We did that. I'm horrible. I used to go out before, you know, when I was like in my 20s. I kind of did some of that, and when I was younger, we did more boogie boarding. I didn't have a surfboard, so I would have a boogie board. But that was it. Yeah, I haven't taken them out surfing or anything, but we do a lot of fishing and diving.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, my youngest one just speared his first manini.
Wow.
No, actually, no, you know, it wasn't manini. Your first fish was a hinalea, yeah?
Nice.
First fish he speared
Next
was a
stop,
hinalea.
ulua.
Yeah. No, he ate it. Once you spear it, you got to eat it. So
right on the spot.
But it was good, right?
Nah.
It was good, yeah. Yeah, he liked it.
Awesome. You'll be spearing huge uluas and ahi soon enough.
Yeah.
One speed. Okay, so I want to know, what is the most important lesson you've learned in your career?
I think it's a simple idea, but yeah, in my music career, or really in any career, you know, just I think someone told me, you know, be a good person first and a good musician second.
Love that. I can tell that you have a very humble, kind nature. I can just tell that just from even just not even just this conversation right here, but from your concert and just the way you speak to others and the way you address the audience. I can tell that you're a good person and you're very humble and kind towards others.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, it really shows. So I believe that when you say it.
Thank you.
So what's next for you? I mean, you've accomplished so much. I mean, you just won your 45th Nahoku Hanohano Award. Is that
No, not for it. No.
okay.
No.
I was confused because I saw 45th. I was like, is it the 45th annual?
Yeah,
or did he win his 45th?
45th annual.
Because then I was like, I'm pretty sure like he's at a point where he could win his 45th. So I would believe it if he did.
No. Yeah, but it was it was my 13th.
13, okay.
Award, and I was
In my
very
head, I'm just gonna say it's the
fortunate.
45th.
Oh, but it was it was such a wonderful project. You know, it got contemporary acoustic album of the year, and it was a collaborative project. And for me, it was very special because, it was a collaboration, and it was my first collaborative record. And for me, it was just a great reflection of how what all the things that we had to do to survive through this last couple years. It was collaboration, supporting each other, coming together as a community, and just helping each other out, right? And doing something that's positive and inspiring. So for me, it was it was really special. And this past Nahoku Hanohano Award was so incredible. I mean, so many chicken skin moments, and it was the first in-person ceremony since the pandemic. So you could just feel it in the air. I mean, there was an energy, a vibe, and oh man, it was just I feel so blessed that I got to be there in person to feel that, and
Awesome.
just experience that.
And this is you on for your album Jake and Friends. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it was called Jake and Friends.
Can you just list some people that you
Yeah.
collaborated with?
Oh yeah,
and where you recorded at all these things?
Yeah, we recorded it all over the place. The opening track was Jack Johnson and Paula Funga. We did a Stevie Wonder song called "A Place in the Sun," and Joshua Nakazawa. He's a cellist with the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. He played on a track that we recorded with Bette Midler. She did The Rose. Kenny Loggins is on there. Ziggy Marley, Willie Nelson, Lucas Nelson. What else do we have on it? John Anderson, from the lead singer for Yes. I was a huge fan of. Warren Haynes, Billy Strings. I mean, just an incredible Jimmy Buffett.
All-star lineup.
I mean, I was just so grateful that they all agreed, to be a part of this, so I was just very, very thankful.
Awesome. Well, go check it out. Make sure you guys check it out. So
Thank you.
What's next? I mean, you've done things like you met the Queen of England. You played in like some of the biggest venues in the world. You've been at the top of the Billboard charts. You had a funny story about the Queen at the concert too. Can you share that with the audience? I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, it was. So I was up there. I was actually up there with Bette Midler. This was back in 2010, and we performed at the Royal Variety Performance, which is a concert that the royal family puts on every year. So after the concert, we got to meet, the Queen. So we were all backstage and lined up, and I was so nervous, and we're all the performers, got to meet her. So we were all lined up, and I was standing next to Bette Midler, and it was like, Lady Gaga was there, Miley Cyrus, Michael Bublé. So it was a really, just to be in the room with all these people. So we're standing there, and the producer of the show came backstage and said, okay, before Her Majesty arrives, I just want to go over with you some of the rules. So he said, just remember 3 things. The first thing is you're not allowed to reach for her hand. You have to wait until she extends her hand to you. The second thing is you're not allowed to speak first. You have to wait until she speaks to you. And the third thing he said is you don't have to bow. You don't have to worry because, this is just a very casual meeting. So I thought, okay, good, because I didn't know the proper way to bow and all that. So I said, okay, good. So we're all lined up, in a straight line. And, and I tell people this, I think it's because of the Japanese in me, that as soon as she walked into the room, I was the only one in this line of people standing up straight. As soon as she walked in the room, I was like, You know, I was like bowing like a maniac. You know, I probably looked like a chicken. You know, so, but it was just such an amazing moment. She came around, and I got to shake her hand and exchange a few words with her, and it's just an experience that I'll never forget. And and it just, I never would have thought that when I was 4 years old and my mom taught me my first chord on the ukulele, I never thought that one day I'd be shaking hands with the Queen of England.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, I mean, following that up, what's next? What's does the future hold for you?
There's I don't know, for me, like, well, musically speaking, yeah, I mean, there's just so many things out there that I want to learn and tackle. I mean, there's so much music out there, so many things to discover. So I don't know, it's exciting. I love, like I said, I don't really have like right now I don't really have goals other than I just feel like I just want to keep progressing and learning more and yeah, and then sharing these things with my children.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of? Yeah, my two boys, I guess. Yeah.
He guesses. It's not for sure. you still got a couple years left to go to make them extra proud.
Yeah. No,
awesome.
Definitely. They surprise me every day. So.
That's awesome. Really, really cool. Okay, what is one thing you wish people knew about you that they don't? Something that maybe people misunderstand. He's thinking with his kids right now.
It's a good thing you guys came. I'd be so lost in this interview. Let's see.
What is one thing people should know about your dad? I think we already covered that he doesn't know how to
He said, I don't know how to sing. Yeah, I think a lot of people know that. Because even when people ask me, like, because I get asked often, they're like, Jake, why don't you sing a song? And then I'll sing a song and then they never ask me again. So
Yeah.
they're like, oh, that's why he doesn't sing.
But can you think of something else that you wish people knew about you?
I don't know. Can I can cook pretty good, yeah? No? Oh yeah, okay. What do I cook? What's your favorite? What? Oh yeah, he said I cook eggs pretty good. Oh, steak, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so what you cooked on
Yeah,
cooking
steak.
Hawaiian style, okay.
Yeah, I do make a pretty good I do make a pretty good steak.
Okay, nice. We're gonna have to find that out in person one day. Maybe we have a live podcast. We'll do like a cooking Hawaiian style. And
That'd be awesome.
We'll have you play ukulele while cooking at the same time while being interviewed for a podcast. See how you multitask.
Oh, that's something I cannot multitask to save my life. That is my kryptonite. Yeah.
It's funny. All right. The last question before we get to our last section and we wrap up. What is your life hack? Do you have a life hack for
well,
the
you
audience?
did tell me to prepare for this, so I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
life
something
hack.
to
So-
make your life easier or something.
So
advice.
this is something that I share sometimes.
Oh,
and
Life hack is,
huh? What's
No,
that?
share it. What is the life hack?
life hack is
His son is thinking right now. Oh, it doesn't know. Blanked. Never mind. Okay.
All right. Well, so I brought this. This is, I think, something that
Oh,
here in Hawaii, everyone can relate to. It's a wooden back scratcher, and I think every at grandma's house everybody had one.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah, right.
I can feel it on my back
Yeah,
right now.
I know, it's like great. So, but the reason I brought this is because I remember like thinking, this back scratcher, right, is such a great reminder of three character traits that I think I hold very close to my heart. And so the first thing is if you look at the hand of the back scratcher, you have the 5 fingers that are curved forward. So if you look at that, from the side, it looks like people bowing.
Mm.
And So I thought, oh man, because when you bow, you're like humbling yourself. You're showing humility and respect, right, to whoever you're bowing to. And so the first character trait for me is the first one is to be humble. So the back scratcher, when I see that the people bowing, it reminds me to be humble. The second thing is when you look at the arm of the back scratcher, I'm reminded of in Japanese we have the word okage sama de, which means I am what I am because of you, right? So we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And so the idea is, all the different sections of the arm of the back scratcher represent all the different generations that came before us, that supported us and made sacrifices so that the next generation could have a better life, right? So that's kind of so that's the idea. So the second thing is to be grateful, right? So you have to be grateful for all the people who made sacrifices to get you where you are today. And even though you feel like, oh, I did it all on my own, you really didn't, right? There's so many people who supported you, whether you know it or not. And so that's the second thing. And the third thing is, when you hold the hand out in front of you, right? It's like you're extending your generosity, right? You want to always be helpful, be useful, lend your hand, to someone in need. And so the third idea is kind, to be kind. So when I look at the back scratcher, like I think of those three things, be humble, grateful, and kind.
Wow.
And yeah, those are always things. Anytime I struggle with something, or I feel like, I need guidance in some way, I always kind of go back to those three things, and if there's some kind of internal conflict, it's usually because I'm being ungrateful and feel overly entitled to something, or I'm not humbling myself, or am I truly showing kindness, right? So, so those are the three things that I like.
That's the most beautiful description of a back scratcher I've ever heard. I also didn't even put it together that that's a hand with the fingers like that.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't seen it in a long time.
But that's what it is, right? Because it's a great representation too of when things are out of reach. Right. I mean, this is what helps you to.
Yeah.
It's all those people that support you.
That scratching your back.
You can never forget. Yeah.
Giving you support.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's the thing I love about Japanese culture too, is because it's very meaningful too, with bowing, all these little things, just like Hawaiian culture, where when we talk about kano, which is like the hidden meaning behind everything, it's so similar. And I think that's why people in Japan love Hawaii, because it's so similar to the Japanese culture.
Yeah. I
so
can see that.
I can't wait to go to Japan. I gotta go there one day, maybe in the next year or so.
But I'll leave this with you.
No way.
No. Yeah, I brought it for you.
Wow, thank you. Mahalo so much.
So because you never know when you're gonna have that itch and no one's around.
Yeah,
and you gotta
wow, that's cool, awesome. This is your ukulele, and our new definition of ukulele. your gift. Wow, mahalo. Can I have you sign this?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, I guess we'll find the pen after.
Okay.
That'd be cool. This would be my ukulele. Wow, I really appreciate that, Jake. Mahalo so much. We're gonna leave this. This will be part of the Hawaiiverse podcast. So if anybody needs a back scratcher while being on the podcast, they just I got this. Wow. Okay. So last thing, this is my top 5. I just have 5 quick questions for you, and then we're all pal. Favorite food?
Oh, it's one of these. These are hard. I do like fish. I would say fish.
Okay. What kind of fish?
Whatever we catch. Whatever, we're not picky. Whatever we can catch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Your favorite performance?
Oh, my favorite performance. Ooh. What was my favorite performance? I think was for me it was the one I always remember was the first year we performed at the Nahoku Hano Hano Awards back in 1996. 7 with Pure Heart. Yeah.
Nice.
And that was the year that we released our first record. And I just remember being there and like seeing all of our heroes, like, you know, there. And it was just amazing. My family was there. It was the first time my mom saw us perform, you know, because she was always working.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was a very emotional night for my family
That's so cool.
and me.
Okay,
Yeah.
favorite movie. Also, if you haven't checked out the documentary on Jake, that's really cool. I haven't
Oh, did you see
I
that?
haven't had a chance to watch it. I only watched the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
But I just didn't have enough. I was gonna start it late last night, then I was
Oh,
like, okay, I gotta go
yeah.
sleep. I can just watch it the next day.
Oh,
But it looks really good.
Life
so I
on
can't-
4 strings, right?
I can't
The
wait
life-
to watch it. I watched
Yeah.
the trailer, and yeah.
Oh, thanks. I
That's
think,
on my to-do list.
is it on? It's on Amazon.
It was
I
on
think,
Amazon. Yeah,
Prime,
it aired on PBS.
Oh yeah, yeah,
long time
yeah.
ago, yeah.
Okay. So my favorite? Oh, sorry. What was
Favorite
it?
movie.
Favorite movie? Oh. Enter the Dragon. Yeah.
Enter the Dragon,
Enter the
Bruce Lee.
Dragon. Yeah.
Nice.
That was my favorite from when I was a kid. I could recite every line from that movie.
Awesome. I love seeing the videos of him using nunchucks. I love nunchucks.
Oh,
actually,
yeah?
So when I was in Madagascar in the Peace Corps, I
Uh-huh.
actually learned nunchucks.
Oh,
from
no
this
way.
random guy over there he's like a karate master, runs
Wow.
marathon. So he taught me nunchucks. I have a nunchuck that was handmade from him.
Uh-huh.
And I just do the nunchucks. It's so
Oh,
fun.
amazing.
Yeah. Random fact. Okay. Favorite song to play on the ukulele?
Favorite song?
This is probably gonna be a tough one.
Kavika.
Kavika?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That was
a classic.
it went out from the time I was a kid. Like that was the one song I always wanted to learn. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. Favorite son. Nah,
Yeah.
your favorite way to spend your money.
Favorite way to spend? No, really? You think so? My son said on pedals, like music
Oh.
gear. When I buy all my new pedals, I get so excited. No, I like when we do family trips.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
when we do family
Experiences.
vacations. Yeah,
Nice.
I do like to buy fishing gear. Yes, I know.
Nice. That's a good one. Okay. Well, yeah, mahalo so much. This has been amazing. I hope your sons aren't too bored over there in the corner. We'll go get smoothies. I got you guys. There's a good smoothie spot, so I hope you guys like smoothies. Uncle Kamako will get you some smoothies.
Yeah, Kamaka, thank you so much,
yeah.
and and thanks for all that you do for the community, and just sharing your aloha and your perspective, and expressing that to everyone. So
I think
thank
we're
you.
all doing it in our own way.
yeah. Thanks,
And like
man.
looking at someone like you that I've seen growing up, you're doing it through an ukulele, through your personality, through your own aloha, and that's inspiring to me and so many others. So I think
Yeah.
we're all trying to do what we can to perpetuate our own culture, to make Hawaii look good. We're all from here,
yeah.
so we wanna represent this state as best as we can. So
Well, what's the most important aspect that you think people should know about Hawaii who have never been to Hawaii?
I think they have to know the people and our culture, our rich culture. Because one thing that that always annoyed me was seeing how everything is so like commercialized about Hawaii. Like you just see whatever is on TV and social media. Like hula dancers, pineapples, these amazing beaches, hikes, and resorts, Waikiki. But I just wish people knew about the history, like Duke Kahanamoku, even before that, like the monarchs, like how we had electricity before the White House and Iolani Palace, like how Hawaii was one of the most literate places, in the U.S. Like all these things, like how you were saying about how about the coral and like people, they would notice just the little polyps, but how aware they were of nature and like others around them. I just feel like I wish people knew more about like the deep history of Hawaii, even like not just even the Hawaiian culture, the local culture, the food and where it comes from, the ukulele, like how it's not just like a toy, just like this $20-$30 instrument you buy at Walmart. you know, and you're like, you're just playing around in hula skirts, whatever. There's just so much more that I just feel like we haven't been able to show because our culture was ripped away from us. Even with the language, you know, some people don't even know Hawaiian's a language, the official language of Hawaii. So I just feel like with the podcast and like having these open conversations, hopefully that we can share that with, you know, the world. With social media reaches so many people. Like one of our reels with Lanai reached 1 million views. You know, that's either that's half the
awesome.
population here in Oahu, or here in Hawaii, or that's people all over the world seeing that and learning about our culture, learning that it's more than just vacation rentals and high rises, you know. So that's my goal. That's something that I'm very passionate about. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Yes.
for having me on, and
Yeah.
appreciate it, and thanks for letting my sons hang out and tag along. So.
Yeah, mahalo. Where can we find you? What's your socials?
On it's Jake Shimabukuro Music. I think at Jake Shimabukuro Music.
Just Google them.
No.
You can watch like 20 TED Talks. Google Talks. I watch a few. There's too many.
But thank you so much, for your support, and thank you.
Right on. Okay, well,
And
mahalo.
Jordan, you good? You good? Yeah,
Jordan's
working hard over there,
Yeah,
man.
I
He's
know.
like, getting business done, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, mahalo, Jake, for joining us on the Hawaiiverse
thank you.
podcast. Check us out on hawaiiverse.com, the best place to support locals. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. New episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host, Kamaka, and you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Hui ho.